Hello beautiful souls, and welcome back to my channel Soul Journey. My name is Beck, or Anu Ani, the expansion doula, and today we are answering a question from one of my subscribers. Now, a lot of times I will mention shadow work, and one of my followers asked me, well, what is shadow work? What exactly is shadow work? So that is what we are going to be talking about today. So if you like this video or you want to see more videos like this, definitely hit that subscribe button and hit the like button, and let's get on to the video.
The codes of light you carry inside anchor a new way of life. Heart-centered being, awareness and seeing. You are out on the leading.
So, shadow work. What is it? We hear this term shadow work tossed around a lot. It can feel kind of abstract, I think, to a lot of people. So I'm going to get into the basic definition of shadow work that I have found and what I have explored through my other spiritual teachers. And I'm going to talk a little bit about what it is, how some of the techniques of how to resolve it, and yeah, just get into the basics. So, what is shadow work? So in the most basic terms, shadow work is about bringing the unconscious into the conscious. So this can be within yourself, or it can be happening in the external world. And of course, we know the outer world is a reflection of our inner world. So I'm going to kind of go into how that is reflected in the outer world as we work through our own shadow during this time of ascension into the fifth dimension. So when we are born onto the planet, we come down full. We are a full being. We don't know separation. In fact, our first experience of separation is coming, out of our mother and being separated from our mother. But we don't understand the concept of not getting our needs met. We don't understand any of those things until we experience it in the real world. And as we experience this, we start realizing that certain aspects of us, depending on where we're raised, depending on who we're raised by, all of these things, depending on culture, certain aspects of ourselves are unwanted. That, if we are a good girl or boy, we get this. And if we're a bad girl or boy, we don't get this, or we get punished. So we start realizing that there are certain aspects of us that are not okay. But as we know, each piece of us within us is whole. It's a whole experience or expression of our self. And so we start basically feeling shame around certain aspects of ourselves, and to protect ourselves and to stay a part of the collective, because, if we don't have these pieces, hundreds of years ago or even now, if there was a certain part of you that wasn't okay, you were rejected, and that maybe meant you didn't get food, and maybe that meant you died. So we've learned evolutionarily that if we don't reject certain aspects of ourselves, we can die. That's basically, evolutionarily what we feel. So we start rejecting these pieces within us ourselves, so as to protect ourselves from that. So it could be anger, it could be sexual things, it could be any myriad of things that you're being told either by your parents or your teachers or your siblings or your society that is wrong. We start rejecting these aspects of us. Now, this often happens in the very first few years of our lives, and, all the way through, and, some people might say, well, how do you reject a sexual part of yourself when you're little? Well, I know when I was, 3, 4, 5 years old, I was told, don't have sex till you're married. Sex out of marriage is dirty, all of those things. So even at a young age, save yourself for your husband, all of those things. Even at a young age, we put shame around certain aspects of these parts. So we basically start fracturing these aspects of ourselves and pushing them into our subconscious. So a lot of these things we don't even know are a part of us because we fracture them at such a young age. So that part of us basically becomes or feels separated and rejected from the whole. So it stops feeling nourished. Its needs aren't being taken care of. So essentially that gets pushed down into the shadow of the subconscious. So as we age, we start moving forward with these wounds, and we may or may not know they're there. If we don't know they're there, they're in the subconscious, they're in the shadow. So these wounds have a vibration, they have needs, they have desires, and basically because they aren't being consciously taken care of, they come up very through the back door. They are manipulative. They put out vibrations of these wounds that we don't even realize we're holding. And they can cause some serious repercussions in our reality. So you might be holding a feeling, you know, this concept of victimhood, or a feeling of total shame around yourself that you don't even realize is happening. And that vibration is also creating your reality. So there are people who are super confident and they're super out there and they're being victimized and they don't understand, but it's because they don't understand that there's a whole entire piece of them that they don't even know exists at this point that is feeling completely wounded, completely, you know, rejected. So this is why shadow work is so important, because it is the act of bringing that piece back into the light and healing and integrating it back into the conscious, bringing light to it and healing it and integrating it back in. So as we know, what is going on within us is reflected out in our world. Right now on the planet, there is some serious shadow work going on. We are healing all of these wounds so we can transcend into the fifth dimension. Because the 3D is all about separation. It's all about the different things around us. As we raise into the frequency of fifth dimension, it's about oneness. So to move into the frequency of the fifth dimension, we have to heal the fractures within us. That is why so much is coming up right now. You know, for hundreds of years, so many of these things were, you know, just the way they were. A lot of these things weren't healed. It was very stagnant. And then in the last 100 years, things have been rushing forward into this ascension process. So much is coming up to heal. You know, we're exploring racism. We're exploring, you know, emotional, sexual, and mental abuse. All of these things are coming up into the awareness of the collective. So you can see how as a collective we are exploring the shadow, and as, you know, within us we're exploring the shadow. Now, it is a lot more obvious with the collective shadow because it's on the news, it's coming up in politics, it's coming up, you know, in our relationships. Trump is a perfect example of this shadow that's coming up. A lot of people really, really dislike him. They hate what's going on. But if we're going to be really honest, he's bringing to light the problems of our country. He's bringing to light these small fractures that we've rejected, white supremacy, things of that sort. All of these things that we have basically gone like, oh, that's not a thing anymore. It's coming to the surface. It's been there the whole time, but it's coming to the surface to be healed and looked at and integrated back into the whole and healed. Because as we know, racism, bigotry, all of these things come from fear. They come from this idea of being separate from something else, that something else is different from you, that there is something wrong. There's a fracture there. There's this wrong and right and this polarization. And so as we look at what's happening, we're integrating back in. I mean, integration is such a perfect word. I mean, when it comes to racism and, you know, segregation, we are working on becoming integrated and, you know, bringing the pieces together, understanding that we're all the same, that we all have beautiful aspects to bring to the whole. And that is what shadow work within us is happening as well. We're taking the things that we have rejected within ourselves and integrating them back in and seeing the gifts that they hold for us, that everything is perfect in its place and that we are really whole and that we're all one. So you can see how the outer world is seriously reflecting this inner work that we're doing so that we can all ascend together into the fifth dimension. So what are some different ways that we can start exploring this shadow world? Because it can be very difficult to know what is going on there. So the first way to understand, the first doorway into the shadow world is, how are you feeling? And we've been told on this planet that feelings are hectic, that they don't have any bearing, that they should be controlled, you know, be logical, all of these things. That couldn't be farther from the truth. We are living in an emotional dark age, and we haven't really explored the fact that our feelings are our true compass to when we're in alignment or not. So if you are feeling sad or depressed or angry or things like that, there's usually some sort of vibration of fear or separateness or rejection or shame. And of course, these are all vibrations of separateness and not that wholeness. And if we're feeling joy, connection, peace, these are vibrations of oneness, togetherness, you know, connection. And so when you are feeling a negative emotion or a feeling that doesn't feel good within your body, I feel like negative and positive kind of have this bad and good connotation, whereas negative and positive aren't in any way bad or good. Like in a neutron, you know, you have neutron? No. In an atom, yeah, there's positive and negative electrons. Neither are bad or good. They just kind of create this balance. And so this idea of positive and negative, we kind of have a bad, good connotation around them. So I'll say a feeling that feels good within your body, or a feeling that doesn't feel so good. You know, it feels like, you know, restricted and held and caged. So when you have a feeling that doesn't feel good in your body, this is an indication that something has been fractured. Something is feeling separateness. Something's feeling rejected. So you need to go into that feeling and start to bring up what are the belief systems you're holding when it comes to whatever's causing that feeling within your body. What are the beliefs you have? What is it that, you know, would help relieve that feeling? What needs are coming up for you that you're rejecting? You know, start going into that. Why is this feeling? What is the story I have around this feeling? And what are the beliefs I have around it? So that's where you that's the first doorway into what shadow work is. So then some techniques I have written down here. And now there are a myriad of ways to do shadow work. These are just a few that I've personally utilized. So the first one is journaling. So go into the feeling and just free write. Don't judge too much what is coming up. Journal. What is the emotion you're feeling here? Why do you feel like it's coming up? What are the belief systems you have? And just journal and journal and journal. And you'll start to find there's these inner core beliefs that may or may not resonate with you that you didn't even know you had. And so again, shadow work is the action of bringing the shadow into the light. So it's about bringing the unconscious into the conscious. So journaling is a great way to do that. The next way to do that is with card work. So with oracle cards or tarot cards. Tarot is a system that you have to learn, but oracle cards are great because you don't have to learn a system. You can just go to the book. So sometimes if you sit down and go, okay, what is it that I need to know? What is it that needs to come into the light? What are the beliefs that aren't working for me? And you pull cards, you may find that you glean some really intense knowledge that you didn't even realize was going in within you. And so that's a great way to bring the shadow into the light as well, in a more simple way if you feel like you're not as advanced when it comes to going deep into the shadow when it comes to spirit work. The next thing is the completion process. So this is a process that was actually created or rather, put into practice by one of my favorite teachers, Teal Swan. And it is the process of going from the original feeling and working your way back to the first time you felt that feeling and integrating whatever wound happened within that situation. So if you want to check that out, go over to Teal Swan and then go to completion process, and she will be able to take you through that. She has a whole video on it, and it is really, really amazing, and I highly suggest it. So that is a really advanced way of real soul integration and healing those fractures, and I highly recommend it. Kind of a part of that, but it can go in different directions, is doing inner child work. So connecting with your inner child, there's tons of books on it, there's tons of videos on it, there are decks that you can work on, going in and connecting to your inner child and working through those as well, because the inner child is going to show you where those wounds come up. It's a much more clear representation of what's going on within you. And your inner child is the part that is wounded because it's the part that has had all those pieces taken away. A lot of times our adult version has no idea what those pieces were even. So going in and doing inner child work is super helpful as well. Meditation is great, getting clear, getting centered. This can also help you understand, the pieces you've rejected on a higher sense. You can start realizing that there are these pieces of you that you've never really identified with, but when you start realizing your higher version has those pieces, you can kind of start integrating those in, and that can be really helpful as well. And then finally, just validating those unwanted emotions. So often we have this belief that, anger, sadness, depression, that they're bad emotions, that we need to reject them, that they don't serve us, that they need to be pushed away. But really, they're the gateways, again, into understanding the fractures within yourself. So start validating those feelings, and there's nothing wrong with validating the feeling and saying, this feeling makes sense. There's a reason why this feeling is coming up. But then, translating that in a healthy way. Not then putting those emotions on someone else, without permission. Ask someone to hold space for you, hold space for yourself. Taking those emotions and exploring them in a way that is genuine and peaceful and not, then wounding someone else. That's really important. So you can validate a deep emotion that doesn't feel good without then hurting someone else. And there's a balance within that. So remember, just because you validate an emotion that doesn't feel good doesn't mean you are then going to take on that emotion and you're just going to hurt a bunch of people. So I think a lot of us have fear around that if, you know, we accept our anger, if we accept our sadness, then that's all we're going to feel and bad things are going to happen. So be aware of that. Our emotions aren't bad. They're a guide to our healing. So ultimately, shadow work is a crucial part of self-care, because when it comes to self-care, it's really about honoring your full self. It's about honoring your full expression. It's about taking care of your needs. And if you don't do your shadow work, you are not going to know all of your needs, because most of your needs are going to be under that subconscious layer, and you are not going to really know what needs need to be taken care of, what kind of connections you need, the type of healing you need. So to really, you know, fully care for yourself, shadow work is a crucial part. It is a crucial part of self-acceptance. So shadow work is about the action of integrating the pieces of you that you've rejected and healing them and integrating them so that you can remember your oneness and your wholeness of being. And so even though it can be sometimes really intense, it can bring up a lot of shame, it can bring up a lot of hurt and wounds. It is one of the most powerful healing tools you can ever utilize. So many blessings. Go forward and explore all of those shadows within yourself. If you need support, put it out there. Put out to the universe that you'd like to, you know, create support in a safe space for yourself. And if you open yourself up to that, a community will come around you, whether it's on the internet, whether it's, you know, in real life, whatever that looks like. Seek out that. Maybe even look at the hashtag shadow work and maybe, you know, connect with beings on there. Really put yourself out there. Shadow work is the experience of exploration of self. So if you like this video, if you have any more questions, please comment them down below and like the video and hit subscribe if you want to see more videos like this. This was a video brought out of a question in the comments. So definitely, if you have questions, if there's subjects that you are confused on, you know, things that you don't understand, comment them down below. Let me know if you'd like me to make a video on them. And if, you know, if I feel like it's something that I have enough knowledge about, I will definitely make a video on it. So definitely let me know. And if you'd like to check out my other social media, those links are down in the description below, along with my Etsy shop. A great way to go into shadow work is by getting a reading by someone. So in my Etsy shop, I have lots of spiritual tools for your journey, along with tarot readings that I do for people. So I have a couple different options down there. So go check those out. If you are really feeling lost within your shadow work, if you're not really sure where to start, I definitely do readings for shadow work. So let me know. I would love to help you start off on that journey. So many blessings, you guys. Namaste. And don't forget, it is all about that soul journey.